Hello and welcome to Corpse Club. I'm your co-host Bryan Christopher. Joining me today are Scott Drebit and Derek Anderson, and we have got a whole slew of new movies to talk to you about. We've got The Monkey, we've got Death of a Unicorn, we've got The Rule of Jenny Penn, and we've got the new Street Trash remake. How are you doing today, gents?
Doing good, doing good. Glad to get the three horsemen of the apocalypse back together again. And you're right, we do have a lot of good stuff to talk about today.
Lick my asshole.
So you're doing well, Scott.
I'm doing good. If you know, you know. If you've seen the movies that we're talking about, then it's a little reference there. I'm
I've
pretty
seen
sure I
all
have
four
it
of the
right.
movies we're talking about, and I have no idea what the hell you're talking about, my man.
Sure, you do. It's either, okay, let's delve into this a little bit. It's either lick my asshole
Mhm.
or kiss my asshole. And you know which movie it is.
I oh lick her asshole. That's why it's throwing me off.
Oh,
Okay,
I'm
yes, I
sorry.
and we're now getting into a visual gag. Two of them
Which is,
actually. Scott is showing everybody his wrist, and
Well, that was for you. I wasn't
Derek.
showing it for the audience. Derek was.
visuals work
Uh,
so great for recordings too.
yes, yeah, it's
It
really
totally
it.
lands.
You really love to just you can just hear those visuals
Okay.
sing
All right.
on a
I'm
podcast.
sorry. Lick her asshole.
I think we've already earned the E rating for this episode.
It's fine. We haven't dropped the F-bomb yet. I do think, though, that Scott, I think your new catchphrase, like every episode, you need to work lick my asshole into conversation.
Fair enough. I will
Or
do
just
that.
or just as your sign on.
This is my sign on. This has been Scott Drebit. Lick my asshole.
When did stay scary turn into lick my asshole?
Lick-
It's been a long year.
Not even halfway through it yet.
the dark days of Daily Dead and Corpse Club.
We were never the same after episode 300.
No, this is
Thanks everybody for listening, and remember, lick my asshole, fuckers.
this is our
Okay,
behind the
now
music episode.
There's the E. No, you guys can't
there's the
say it
E.
again, or we get the E, right? Is it the same as R ratings?
I think
You
you're
can say
right
it
about that.
once.
Yeah, I think there is some truth to that.
Yeah, who's checking it? Just out of curiosity. It's not like
Our
we're on
poor
NBC and we're like the censors pulling their hairs out upstairs.
our poor leader Jonathan is probably the one checking when he's editing this nonsense.
God damn it.
All right, our
Well,
first movie.
well, lick my asshole. There's so many uses for it.
The title
All
of
right.
Scott Trevitt's next book.
All right. Huh,
about about movies of the 1990s.
that's right. That one's for Heather. That's right.
All right, folks, let's get into our first movie, The Monkey,
Yes.
the newest from Monsieur Osgood Perkins, written by Osgood Perkins, based off of The Monkey, a short story by Stephen King, with a nice little production credit for Mr. James Wan in there as well. It has a kind of a murderer's row of different like character actors in here. Theo James, Tatiana Maslany, Rowan Campbell, who I'll complain about later because of his other movie connections, Sarah Levy,
Wow.
Adam Scott, Elijah Wood. It Theo James stars as two brothers, two twin brothers, Hal and Bill Shelburne, who kind of have this family curse in the form of a mechanical monkey that whenever it kind of beats its cymbals together, someone dies. And you don't get to choose who it is. And so we kind of see it actually starts off. I knew as soon as I saw Adam Scott in a pilot's uniform at the beginning of this movie, I went, yeah, I'm probably going to like this. Like, this
Oh,
is
that's
going to
right.
be good. This movie is so weird in the best possible way. So I really feel like this was something where I wonder if Osgood Perkins kept getting like input that his movies were like too dour and too reserved, and he was like, all right, fuckers, okay, here's RE, all right, fuckers, here's my take on like a black comedy. And this, he just, it turns into this weird, like black, like almost Final Destination-esque movie
Oh, very
with
much so.
Yeah.
far weirder characters in it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it
Hmm.
definitely is. And it's very much, I mean, you can call it like a dark black It's a comedy.
Hmm.
It's a comedy and it's not, and it deals with death and he's talked about this in interviews. I know this was kind of how he sees death now through the lens of, okay, what his father went through when he died. And he says, as they say in the movie, everyone dies, and that's fucked up, right? And that's kind of it really is kind of like the mantra of the movie, I thought too. And yeah, since Longlegs for me, there was the bubbling under, and there was definitely the undercurrent of like a satire, a dark comedy of just our obsession with serial killers and the way he plays around with that and twists it. And you could see he was having fun with that. Then when I saw the trailer for When the Monkey was coming out, and I remember just about falling off my chair going, God damn it. I think he's going for like a full out comedy here. It's amazing. It's like, and you said, Brian, a murderer's row of character actors. Matslani is just hilarious as the mom, and she's just fucking fantastic. I love her. It's
Yeah,
a great
just
movie.
that single mom that is brutally honest with her kids about
Yeah,
like what her life is and what they should expect from their lives.
Yeah, there's no filter like with her, and then also all the other characters too. Like you keep expecting it to, or at least I did. I kept expecting it to rein in at some point, like, but he just kept pushing everything further, which worked though because the whole movie existed in this like heightened atmosphere about talking about death or dealing with death, and like that was just the world that the movie lived in, and it was kind of just fun to see him just try to one up himself the whole movie with these characters because even like aside from the gruesome deaths, just the way they like talk to each other and treat each other is just so like they're saying exactly what's on their minds for better or worse, oftentimes worse.
Yeah,
yeah, but I mean,
everybody is like different degrees of awful in this movie. And like
mhm.
in a way that like usually that is such a big turnoff for me. Like usually if we're being asked to follow deeply flawed is kind of how a lot of people like to say it, but like usually that means shitty people. I That's usually a turnoff because it's just like I don't need to see these people be awful for an hour and a half to two
Yeah,
hours. But within the context of a satire like this, where they're all kind of like part of the gag, and not only that, but most of them you do get to see get killed in horrible
yeah.
ways. It's the best kind of movie to have these kinds of characters in.
Yeah, and it's set up, it's like our modern day, it's almost like our modern day disaster movie for me when they make a movie like this. You gather all these, I mean, for like the cult world anyway, you gather a group of these actors that are just so fascinating and they're giving like really fun stuff to play. Every character in this movie is a blast and full of life and mostly awful, but it's us laughing at them. We're not laughing with them. So it's most definitely you are supposed to revel in their miserableness and what they go through because it's played for laughs.
It's also kind of amazing how much backstory and like attention to detail Perkins gives these characters who oftentimes don't wind up on the screen for more than 5 minutes. Like Elijah Wood's Ted is ridiculous, like through and like this is a guy who has written like multiple books on parenting, and he's like only been a step parent for like what, like a
Mhm.
year or something when we meet him. Like, and he is just so weirdly like aggro. And I think at one point, doesn't he like offer to like arm wrestle Hal at some point or something like that?
Yep.
It's just like he is absolutely ridiculous. And it's like, oh, like he's introducing like this wacky character that's going to be like a foil throughout the movie. You literally never see him after one 3 to 5 minute scene, and you get a lot of that. Like it's you never see Adam Scott again. Perkins himself has like a short role in the movie where he's married to Sarah Levy from Schitt's Creek and from of the Levys, Eugene Levy and Dan Levy. Just I love that he was willing to make so many ridiculous characters that like he's willing to throw some of them away in tiny scenes because it's like, don't worry, there's more coming.
Well, yeah, and plus, like, and again, back to the motto of the movie, which is everyone dies, and that's fucked up. So it's kind of a everyone's on the table. It could be anyone and anything goes, right? And it just makes for fun viewing. And then plus, my God, it's a great looking movie. The effects are solid. It's just funny. He writes like funny shit. I'm sitting there and thinking I can hardly wait to own this on Blu-ray because I want to revel in this movie over and over again because I thought it was hilarious and I still think I missed stuff because I was laughing so much in the theater when I was watching it.
Well, and totally, it's so different from Longlegs, his previous movie, where that was very dark and foreboding and had this very uneasy, kind of serious atmosphere for most of the film. And then this was like totally opposite side of the coin, like really leaning into in your
Yeah,
face splat stick. Like it was so fun to watch him. Like, oh, he can do that too. Like that's
but
really
I
cool.
would say there's kind of I saw like a change with Longlegs starting because he became a much more kinetic director.
Mhm.
There's a lot more movement and energy in his visual storytelling and in the stories itself. I wasn't like 100% surprised when the monkey looked like it was going to be this really energetic, like carrying on with that energy, but this time, a comedy. So I think he was at least gearing up the wheels and certainly energy wise he was going into from long legs into the monkey, I think, with that steam of confidence and of what he was
Mm.
doing.
I agree. I do think in Long Legs you're starting to see a little bit of that playfulness that comes on in full display in the monkey. Like just his kind of like even his use of the soundtrack in Long Legs where he incorporates like a lot of T-Rex and stuff like that. There is definitely like a little bit of like coming out of his shell a little bit. Yeah, it's and this is one of those things where it's like even from they also were good at not mismarketing it. Like I remember seeing the trailer. You see Osgood Perkins, you see it's based off of like a Stephen King short story, and I'm like, oh, this is gonna be one dour ass monkey. And then by the end of the trailer, I'm like, oh, this is gonna be funny as hell. This is gonna be ridiculous. I can't wait. And I think he really made good on that promise in the trailer.
Yeah, it's just so fun. I think the new Final Destination movie is going to have its work cut out for it just to try and like top this because, like you said, Scott, it's kind of that Final Destination vibe, and the kills are so gnarly and set up. Like it does that thing where it makes you think they're going to die one way, and then it's something completely
Yeah.
different. Like there's just some really, and sometimes it takes a long time for that person to actually die. Like in the case
Or
of a
Yeah,
Sarah
certain
Levy.
character with
Oh
a
right.
man.
realtor sign.
But
And
you know what
fishing
I
bait.
and I agree with that, but what I think I find, and I love the Final Destination movies, love, love, love
Hmm.
them. What I find this has that, but it also has what we were talking about. These characters are, I think, more interesting
Hmm.
than in general the Final Destination characters that you get. They're not all Mary Elizabeth Winstead, right? These characters are characters
Hmm.
and they're off the wall and it's broad because it's supposed to be broad because it's like he's having a big old dead parade and a celebration of life at the same time. It feels like a New Orleans, celebration
Like a
because
dirge. Is
yeah,
that what I'm thinking of? Yeah.
yeah, it's like this glorious wake. It's about acceptance. It's about just throwing up your hands and saying, you can't control any of this shit. And here's some people who, probably could have done some things differently and their lives would not have turned out this way. But Yeah.
And it definitely, in true Osgood Perkins fashion, it doesn't offer, much by way of like a light at the end of the tunnel. Like I wouldn't say it's necessarily like the bleakest ending, but it's also like it fits very well in with the tone of the movie where it's just kind of like, yeah, death will come for us all. Screw it. Just like you keep
Yeah.
going until it finds you.
There you go.
And it
Just live
finds
with it.
people in such creative ways in this movie in what seemed like primarily like really good practical effects.
Hmm.
I will say without giving too much away, I think my favorite was actually other than the sequence that is probably one of the stars of the movie, yes, involving the real estate sign. But there's a quick cutaway of the after effects of a trampling it is
Oh,
so
that's a good one. Yeah, that's good.
goopy and just gross.
I'm a fan of the staging of the immolation scene. For me, that was like top
Mm,
notch.
hmm
Yeah. That was like watching a marshmallow try to run away from something and failing.
Uh, and he does such a good job at, it's that combination of like the ones that come out of nowhere that you don't see
Yep.
coming and just kind of take you by surprise, and the ones
Yeah.
that, like you said, Derek, are kind of like the Final Destination S sequences where it's just like you keep going by these intimidating looking objects and being like, is this going to be what does it?
All the all right, we're gonna fake you out. We're gonna set the like show this, but then it's actually gonna be this. Yeah,
But
it's
they
really
don't,
fun. It's really
but it's an
fun.
interesting contrast though, because talking about this next door to Final Destination, because that's kind of built into their DNA, and part of their formula is they will emphasize stuff. It could be this, it could be that. I don't think the monkey was doing it so much as the Final Destination would, as in kind of that gimmicky way of, well, oh, it could be this one. Oh, it could be
Mhm.
that one. And it doesn't need to, because as I said, like the monkey is so its characters are so interesting that it doesn't need to do those like fake outs, you know?
Yeah, yeah, and I think we'd be remiss if we didn't mention, and speaking of characters, Ricky, kind of the local like rock thrasher stoner guy, who I was like, this guy looks familiar, and I looked him up and I realized it's Rowan Campbell, who I didn't I didn't fully recognize in this because he actually has a personality here, as opposed to Halloween Ends, where
Wow.
Oh, that
he's just kind of there.
really? I had no that was Rowan Campbell.
It was,
Oh
I
my
thought
yes.
he was good
gosh.
in both films.
Wow.
No,
So,
Yeah, he was
I
he was the Michael
I
Myers
half
to
agree.
be. He was until he wasn't.
What did I bring that up just to
And
kind of like be annoying to Scott just a little bit, maybe?
you sure
Because
did.
probably because I know
and
we're gonna have like I think a full-on argument later, so I'm just kind of setting that tone now.
and
Probably.
we have to mention like Halloween Ends every episode, right? That's kind of our thing.
Or
O'Brien
Anything
kills,
is.
or
yeah.
kills. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Funnily enough, Rowan Campbell was also just announced as he's going to play Billy in the new
Billy,
Silent Night,
yeah,
Deadly Night. So he's kind of building
Oh,
this slasher horror legacy here
well,
in
you know
front of
what?
our
That's
eyes.
great because he's fucking great as a bad guy. So,
sure.
and he'll be
Anywho,
great as Billy.
Scott, what
Yes, sir.
rating? What rating out of five monkeys? What do you give the monkey?
Ooh.
You know what? Out of five monkeys, on a pure monkey scale and in the world of horror, the monkey for me, and I mean this, it's a solid 4.5.
Very nice.
I
Very.
think it's a movie that is going to be just revisited forever with horror fans, because I know it did okay. I think it did okay at the box office, but
Hmm.
it's going to catch fire at home and it's going to be huge. I
Yeah, it
really
did.
think it's going to have a life.
It did
It
pretty damn well. It got $68.5 million
Oh,
dollars
there
off
we
of like
go.
an $11 million budget.
yeah.
Oh,
So
there we go.
it did
Perfect.
fine.
That's
Yeah.
great.
Hmm.
And it's going to keep going and growing.
Derek?
I'm with Scott on this one. I'm giving it 4.5 monkeys. Maybe like the last monkey has the symbol halfway to hitting each other, but I think it's but I think it's just so good. I think he Osgood completely set out to do what he wanted to, and like the confidence was there, the creative decisions that he made. I think everything about it pretty much in almost every way is a home run, and I think it's going to be really exciting. I know he has like a cabin set horror film coming up, so I'm excited to see what he does next. But in the meantime, this was, I thought, so good in so many ways, and yeah, I loved it.
Awesome. Awesome. I don't think I'm at a solid four. Not quite as high as you two, but I really enjoyed this. It was a lot of fun. It gave me like equal parts chuckles and like, great gore gags. And yeah, I think it was really nice to see Osgood Perkins just cut loose on a movie. And I think this was a really good opportunity for him to do that. And I think it was really successful. All
Definitely.
right.
Yes.
Up next, we have Death of a Unicorn, written directed by Alex Sharfman. This is kind of the latest of the A24
Yeah.
movies, starring Paul Rudd, Jenna Ortega, Will Poulter, Taya Leone, and Richard E. Grant. It is about a single father, played by Rudd, and his teenage daughter, played by Ortega, who are going to meet with Rudd's bosses of this like very big pharmaceutical company played by Taya Leone and Richard Grant, and their son is in a their grown son played by Will Poulter. Basically, every bad thing you can think about people who would run a pharmaceutical company is this family. The twist is on the way up, Paul Rudd. I think he's got like allergies or something, so he's blowing his nose and he doesn't realize that a baby unicorn has run into the road. They wind up crashing into it. They find out that this unicorn has kind of like life restoring properties to it. And so, of course, this pharmaceutical company family tries to immediately exploit it, only to find out that mommy and daddy are none too pleased that their baby is dead and they have his body. So it turns into this very wacky kind of unicorn creature feature. I will say, so one of my partners really loves unicorns, and she wanted me to scout this out for her because she wasn't sure, like, is this going to be like unicorn slander, where like the unicorns are going to be like bad guys in this? And like, no,
Unicorn slander.
this is one of the kind of best feature film representations of fuck around and find out when it comes to nature. As someone who likes like fantasy stuff and like D&D, like they represent unicorns often as like powerful but not necessarily the nicest creatures in the world, and that's kind of what you're getting here. And this very over the top, there's definitely like, if the monkey was doing satire, I would say Death of Unicorn is definitely bringing some satire on the pharmaceutical world and just kind of healthcare in general.
Yeah.
And the focus on helping the people who have all the resources and not the people who actually need the help. So setting up these, again, bad characters to have them kind of meet their grisly end at the horns of unicorns is was pretty entertaining to me. Scott, what do you think of this one?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I think we saw it on a Saturday afternoon or something like that. The missus and I, and yeah, we liked it. As a matter of fact, I think she liked it better than me. I was expecting, and again, through no fault of their own, I suppose, but I was expecting it maybe to be amiable, but I didn't find it necessarily as funny as I thought it could be. But yeah, the pharmaceutical stuff is great. The cast is certainly game. It's a like what it is. It's a very likable movie. Jenny Ortega is great as always. Rudd, Tia Leone is funny as always. Jeffrey Grant is great. Poulter is awesome. I would have liked to have seen them go even further with the humor. I thought the horror, the kills were good, even if maybe, the unicorns themselves have kind of a well, the baby one kind of looked like Donkey from the Shrek movies to me.
Yeah, yeah, the CGI was a little, the seams kind of showed in this, where like, they I think 99% of the time we're doing CGI unicorns, if not completely, and it very much showed that they were CGI unicorns most of the time.
As
And
opposed to real ones.
you know what I mean.
No, I know.
Stick a horn on a horse. It's fine.
No, it's
I
not the same though, you know?
I do agree that it was a little too. I don't think saccharin's the right word, but like it was almost like for a movie with killer unicorns, it was almost a little too like feel good.
Safe. Yes, feel good and
Yeah,
safe.
yeah,
Yeah, well, I
yeah.
think both those words, Brian, would apply. And again, it's not those aren't bad words. I think that's maybe just was what I was hoping it would be a little nastier. I'll be honest. I thought, yeah, I was hoping it would be a little meaner in its tone, especially, when you have people like that who are awful and they do say some horrible things that are quite funny. Take that even further and really show us how awful these people are. Yeah, and it has this kind of like, yeah, feel good, CBS after school, ABC after school special kind of feel to the ending of it. And that may be a completely 100% in on the joke kind of thing too, since it's about unicorns. Let's have we
Rainbows and
make
unicorns. Like let's have
let's
it
right
end on.
let's have a
Yeah.
happy ending, right? And that very well may be same with the rendering of the unicorns themselves.
Hmm.
Maybe their logic is, well, guess what, they're not real, so let's make them look kind of fake, like you're watching Rainbow Academy or something. They may be coming at it from that attitude. And maybe if it was a little sharper in other areas, that point, if that was in fact one of the things they were doing, would have been clearer. But it's a likable movie, and I recommend everyone check it out. Three and a
I
half
think
unis for me.
three and a half unicorn horns. I think yeah, where they played it too safe for me isn't in because this is a movie that includes like a skull getting impaled, someone
Yes.
getting disemboweled, someone getting kicked into oblivion. Um,
Yeah, that was a good one.
so like I don't think they were too safe with the kills, although I could have done with a few more. I think where they were too safe is in its villains with this
Yeah.
this kind of central family, Richard Grant, Taylor Leone, and Will Poulter. Like they're cartoon characters. They're like these are evil people, but they're portrayed as being more doofy than anything else. Like Richard Grant's character, where they're going out to try and like hunt this unicorn, goes full like kind of dresses up like a modern day Van Pelt from Jumanji, and it never fully comes through like it's played silly. It's not played like these people are vile human beings. And so yeah, I think that for me is where they play it a little safe.
Yeah, the humor isn't as it just isn't as sharp as it could be. There's no other way that I can add.
I will
But I
say
liked it. It's a likable movie.
I liked, I think, half of Paul Rudd's performance. I have
Ooh.
found that with Paul Rudd, whenever he tries to play anything out of his like earnest, sincere everyman character, it doesn't work for me. Like when he tries to play a character, it just like, and so I think the first half of that where he's kind of playing this like milk toast, money hungry single dad who's like bending over backwards to help this family, he just kind of came off as grating when he comes through, at the end, like he's going to. Honestly, I think in the name of like this movie being a little too safe, there was part of me that was like, well, what if he just kind of like keeps going down that path of bending over backwards and just winds up getting one of the people killed by the unicorn? Like that would have been pretty wild. But yeah, that's not what they were doing here. One call out I do want to do, I really think Anthony Carrigan needs to get hired in more movies. He plays Griff the butler. Other people might know him as NoHo Hank from Barry. He's just like he's one of those guys that like he is interesting just to look at, but then he is also a great actor. I do think he was a little underutilized here, but he did a
This
lot with a little.
I was going to just say, that's kind of an example of what we're talking about here. You have this amazing, if anyone has seen him in Barry as NoHo Hank, he's an amazing actor, an amazing comic actor. And he's got it all when it comes to that stuff. And they do almost nothing with him in this movie.
Mm.
When I saw him first on screen here, I almost jumped out of my seat with excitement. And then for the next 90 minutes, they like barely use him. And that one kind of made me sad. I'm like, wow, what a waste of an amazing resource you had there, and you kind of didn't use them when you should have.
Maybe some deleted scenes on the Blu-ray, perhaps, that
Who
you can look
knows?
forward to.
We
Yeah,
shall
who
see.
knows?
Yeah. But
So
yeah,
did how did Paul Rudd's did you like him better in The Curse of Michael Myers, or was
yes.
this okay? That's always my barometer. Okay, how does it compare to Halloween 6?
Really?
That's
Okay,
Derek's benchmark.
because that is quite the performance.
Oh,
We're
then
talking about more than just Halloween Ends.
here's a quick side quest. No, we're gonna go back to Halloween Kills because I want to know who is the better Tommy Doyle, Paul Rudd or Anthony Michael Hall?
I
Oh,
mean,
Anthony Michael Hall.
I now originally he what Paul Rudd. Well, at least this is the story is that he was supposed to come back for Halloween Kills, but he was doing the new Ghostbusters movie, so there was like a schedule conflict. So he was game to come back, and I really would have liked to have seen that because I think that would have been I don't know. I don't know if they would
We
have
could have.
played it
You're
the
saying
same
we could have
way,
seen Paul
but
Rudd say "Evil dies tonight"
I
27,000 times in a
Listen,
90-minute
I
movie?
don't. If
would that
he's
have
to
been
re,
fascinating?
if he's to play the character as he did before, he would have to go back in his acting ability so far to be almost unrecognizable. I don't think he could act that bad again.
Like someone would need to like before they yelled action, someone would need to hit him in the head with a hammer, and then like
Yeah,
action.
because that's a brutal performance, and I love the man, and it's
All
terrible.
right.
All
After
right.
after that needlessly mean side quest into
Yeah,
dragging
that
Paul Rudd,
Not what I intended, folks.
yeah, thanks a lot, Derek. What a dick. Let us move on to The Rule of Jenny Penn, directed by James Ashcroft and written by Eli Kent and James Ashcroft. I think every once in a while, folks, if you hear me like making a weird noise or laughing, it's because Derek has this mask that I'm assuming he got overlooked. That's like one of those little like masks on a stick things, and it is this eyeless baby doll of like it's Jenny Penn, and he just keeps shoving it in my face. Like he's definitely going the way of John Lithgow's character in this movie.
lick her asshole.
So now I know why people. So we got to in New Orleans. We were holding these up. Shudder had like a 10th anniversary second line parade, and they gave us these. So I'm walking down the street holding this up, and people are looking at it. And I don't know if they had seen the movie and that's why they were looking at me strangely, or if they just didn't know what it was. But either way, I held it up
And they were
high.
all yelling at him,
Lick
lick my
his
asshole.
asshole. Lick his
And he
asshole.
didn't know if they had seen the movie or not. Here's
I
hoping he
mean,
Oh.
did.
So the movie itself stars John Lithgow and Jeffrey Rush. Jeffrey Rush plays an aging judge, kind of very like preening and has like a very rigid like code. And when we meet him, he is passing a sentence during the middle of which he suffers a debilitating stroke and winds up in a nursing home where it's kind of that classic taking a look at what we do or don't do with our old people in this country, and it's not well funded. The staff are burnt out and not really paying attention to what's going on. And because of that, there is a one of the patients or one of the residents there, Dave Creeley, played by a wonderfully menacing John Lithgow, has just kind of turned this place into his own like twisted kingdom where he will just go around and take people's food. He shoves people out of the way and just clears off the dance floor. There is like you kind of really see how sadistic he is, where Jeffrey Rush's character Stefan wakes up and finds his roommate is being just like tortured by Lithgow's Creeley, and that's the reason you keep hearing "lick my asshole" is a misquoting of the movie, where he's got his kind of like his main thing is he's got this puppet, this like dilapidated puppet on his hand. It's this baby's head with the eyes missing that he has named Jenny Penn. And he makes people, metaphorically bend the knee by bending his wrist, pulling down the back of her like little like the like baby onesie and says, now lick her asshole just to show, your fealty. What is it about John Lithgow and being able to play either really wholesome, over the top, goofy characters or the most twisted fucking people you'll ever see on celluloid? Like it's one or the other with this guy.
It's because he is goofy, right? And it's that pliability, I think, that allows him to play either side of that scale, right? Like it can take it into dark places like he did in Raising Cain or like he does, so well here. And then yeah, you have, Harry and the Hendersons or Third Rock from the Sun, and he's just this lovable big goofball. But I think it all stems from the fact that that goofiness gives him an unpredictability, I think, that just can make that rubber band sway each way.
Yeah, it's like it is funny that it's either one or the other. It's not, there's really no like happy medium there. I mean, it's just really, I don't know. And he's just so menacing, like the way his physicality, the way he just kind of towers over someone. He like gets right in their space, and the way he just talks to people in this movie, it's very, very demented. It's like a whole, I don't know. It's a whole nother thing that he's channeling here, where it just feels, because I grew up watching him on Third Rock from the Sun, and yeah, you saw him as like the you I thought he was mean and footloose when he wouldn't let people dance. And now, what if Kevin Bacon had run into this version of that pastor? Like, holy cow!
And going into this, he has it in him, with like, is the Trinity killer in Dexter,
Oh,
who I
right.
think a lot of people would argue is the
Mhm.
best antagonist from that entire series. That's on full display. And I think the fact that he is able to be this menacing, and at this point, like he is 79 years old, like he's in his late 70s, and I would be scared of him if he started like physically intimidating me. And I think the interesting thing that we're seeing here is kind of like this microcosm, this like battle of wills between Jeffrey Rush's Stefan and John Lithgow's Dave. By the way, we're talking a lot about John Lithgow. I think Jeffrey Rush is amazing in this movie. He does a really good job at showing someone who is really struggling with, like, this is someone who prides himself in his intellect and his mental faculties. And the movie does a really good job at showing those deteriorate. I think he would be a lot more formidable against Dave Creeley if he was kind of like at full strength. Obviously, he would not be in this nursing home if he was, but yet he's greatly hindered by the fact that they do a good job at showing he just loses time. I think they call them blips, where he'll be in the middle of something and then he'll blink and he is somewhere completely different and he has lost an unknown amount of time. And I think that kind of talks about the reason Lithgow's character is so easily able to, I think, manipulate and kind of bully his way through. He realizes, like, I'm still in pretty good shape. He kind of talks about that, like, and kind of his reasoning is like, I've had a very boring life. I have, like, really made nothing of myself. There's actually you see an indication that he was a former staff member there because his face is on like previous staff pictures. And I
Yeah.
think part of the reason he's able to get through the place is because no one ever thought to take away his staff pass, or he was able to like hide it. And it's, all these other people around me are starting to like become more and more decrepit, and I'm healthy enough that time is on my side, and I'm going to use that to like make everyone else's life a living hell for my enjoyment. He's just like a sadistic bastard. And so kind of seeing that, the other kind of element to that is the whole reason he's able to do any of this is because no one's really paying attention, because no one really cares. And I think that's just of like a damning exploration of kind of what's going on, how we approach the elderly in this country. I think it's making that commentary without having to like really like hit the nail on the head with a hammer. Like just the fact that they are able to go through all of this and nobody's doing anything about it, I think is pretty telling of what they think about
Right.
our infrastructure to care for the elderly.
Yeah, and then just like the gaslighting, like where, when there's a scene where John Lithgow throws like a bunch of like piss from, that is in Jeffrey Rush's room, and he throws it like on his crotch, and then everyone
Hmm.
just assumes, oh, you just wet yourself in the middle of the night because that's what you do. And even though he's saying, no, this guy came in my room, he like took my my urine and then threw it back on me. And like it's just this whole or them being negligent enough where John Lithgow can just go around like the kind of minimal security of the night staff. It is really it's like frustrating on both ends to see that exploitation, but also like just the way that he's able to get away with it because of the system too. It's one of those things, and it's not, and it's like each staff member might not be that negligent, but all it takes is like one or two to really make it so that the system can be exploited. And yeah, Lithgow certainly does that to his advantage in this. And it's
And
unfortunate too, because I've seen like through family members over the years, I've seen a few different like nursing homes and elderly care facilities, and I've seen some really good ones, and then some others that are like not as good, and you can kind of see it's hard because it's like you see things that you see things where you're like, well, man, if this could be a little bit better, like why does it have to come to this, and I feel like there's a lot of good commentary going on about that whole system too that I think a lot more folks are finding themselves involved in one way or another through family and everything too.
I think it's interesting too because I think I always kind of saw that as a very specifically American issue in terms of, our healthcare here, as is kind of classically known to be a joke, is even worse when it comes to aging in this country and needing access to healthcare. The fact that this all takes place in New Zealand and you're seeing kind of a similar thing happen there is it's actually kind of even more depressing to realize, like, no, it's not just us. Like it
Mhm.
happens in a lot of different places.
Yeah, I would like to say I enjoyed this movie more, but it is really it's a downer for starters. And again, that would be okay. I think it's an effective drama about that system, the healthcare system here and abroad. I think it's a good comment on that. Where I don't think it's effective, really much at all, is as a horror movie.
Really,
I
because I was terrified.
No, I wasn't at all. I thought Lithgow himself was bringing it, but I didn't think that the filmmakers offered any tension. I really didn't. I thought they went for
Wow. Okay.
uncomfortableness. I thought they went for uncomfortableness over or tension, or it was not intense to me. It was, like you said, depressing and effective drama, brilliantly acted. But I just didn't think as a horror film that it worked.
This movie knocked me on my ass. I spent the entire movie like wondering what Lithgow's character was going to be capable of the whole time. And I think with Jeffrey Rush's character having to contend with not only this sociopathic sadist, but also his own deteriorating brain function, it was for me, they did a good job at putting me in Jeffrey Rush's shoes. And that was really uncomfortable and for me extremely tense because I didn't know how this was going to pan out. Like for me, this seemed like one of those movies where it could have wound up taking the bleakest route possible. And I don't want to get too much into spoilers, but it doesn't quite get to that. I get what you mean, Scott, when in terms of like, I don't know if you could call it necessarily an enjoyable experience, but it was compelling. It was really compelling for me.
I think for me, at the end of the day, I look back at it and it's just a movie about a bully. There's no there aren't killings.
I would disagree.
It's just, well, okay, but I don't want to spoil anything. Let's say there are a lot less killings than I
Sure.
would certainly like.
Yeah.
People do die. It is a nursing home. Spoiler alert. Um, but I just didn't think that it was ratcheted up enough, especially with what Lithgow was bringing. The humiliation, sure. Again, that terror of getting old is done brilliantly. I just don't think that it works as a horror movie. And so for that, I would kind of ding it points because I know it wants to be an effective horror movie. I don't find it is that effective. I still would recommend it to people to see, but I would just say I don't consider it a horror movie. I really don't.
Would you consider it elevated horror, Scott?
I would tell you to elevate that and then lick my asshole.
I'm
uh,
with you though, Brian. I was terrified just because I think Lithgow just creeped me out so much. I was expecting there to be maybe a little more like with the doll. I didn't really expect it to be like full on, Chucky, but I don't know if I expected, I guess because it is used in the marketing so much, but I thought he's still his presence just really unsettled me, I guess. And watching him and Jeffrey Rush go at it, like, and then Rush, I'm almost like pleading with him, no, to stop antagonizing him as I'm watching it because I don't want you or like your roommate to get hurt. I
mhm.
guess that's where the terror came from, but it was definitely a little bit different than I thought they would go in some directions, but it still had me very kind of frazzled as I watched it.
And I think part of why I found it so tense is to your point, Derek, like his roommate, Tony, who plays an aging former rugby star who has also like he's been kind of so physically deteriorated because of his time in the sport. Like he can't walk very well, he can't defend himself very well. And again, John Lithgow just kind of like leverages that to be an absolute shit to this guy. And so as things escalate, like I'm wondering, is poor Tony going to be like collateral damage from this kind of like battle of wills? In terms of like the horror, like I get the argument that it's not necessarily traditional horror. Like it doesn't really kind of lean into scares so much as I think it just leans into, for me, it's this building sense of dread and tension about how this is going to come to a head. And for me, I think that it at least has it's enough of a dash of horror that for me it counts.
Well, there you go.
I do agree. I do feel like though the hand puppet, like in terms of the marketing, was a little bit of a misdirect because like I'm thinking it's going to be like he kind of like inhabits the personality of the doll, or
Hmm.
like the doll is telling him what to do, and
Yeah.
it's kind of like his way of just bullying other people. Like he's just this is all him. He's just an asshole. Um,
Like that, there is
so.
definitely a way where this could have been, they could have gone a supernatural direction. Like it's almost, I guess, more scary that they didn't because it is just like, well, somebody can just be this evil all on their own too,
Mhm. Yeah.
and take
Yeah.
advantage of a very fragile situation for a lot of people. So that's, I guess, even more scary in some ways.
I will say I
Yeah.
give this 4 out of 5 baby hand puppets. 4.5 out of 5. I really, really like this. Yeah, it's a pretty dour movie, but it's really compelling. It's really interesting. I actually think it would make a really good companion to Bubba Hotep, just in terms of like if we're
Oh,
talking like
yep.
nursing home horror. Like I think they're kind of exploring some of the same things. I think, I think obviously Bubba Hotep is a lot sillier and kind of like over the top in the way that exploring it, but these are two movies I kind of like to see together.
And another one too I was reminded of was Late Phases, that werewolf one from about 10 years ago.
Yeah, yeah.
That was another one that kind of came to mind. I know there's not a ton of like nursing home horror, probably not as much as you would expect, just based on current events and everything. Just everyone kind of deals with that at some point. But yeah, that definitely came to mind. I'm with you too, Brian. I think I'm gonna go for Jenny Head. I have three Jenny Head heads, but I don't have a fourth. So my carrot top prop accessories still need a little work here. But
It looks like
I,
the way you had them fanned out, it looks like you were playing like the world's worst hand of poker. I hated
I have three babies.
it.
like these are just the baby heads I was dealt. All right, I'm just doing the best I can. It's all anyone can do.
Well, I will give this three nursing home pudding cups out of
Okay.
five. Like I said, there's a lot that I admired about it, but I have to minus points from it because I think they were trying to go for scares, and for me, they just were not there. So as a drama effective, As a horror, not so much. So somewhere in the middle. So yeah, three pudding cups.
Fair enough. Fair enough. And
Chocolate
for
or
those,
tapioca?
Oh, chocolate. Come on, tapioca. Fuck,
I
lick my asshole.
only if I can lick tapioca out of it. So if anybody thinks that that was going to be the movie we argued over, I think this is going to be the one based off of the group chat from what I've been seeing from Scott. We are next going to get into Ryan Kruger's 2024 to be original remake of Street Trash, which you might know from the 1987 movie by J. Michael Murrow. The original looks at homeless people in Brooklyn, New York, who are introduced to a long expired stash of alcohol, and it makes them melt and chaos ensues. In the remake, they keep the elements of it being a group of homeless people who are getting taken out by, I think they still call it Viper or something or other, but in this case, it takes place in
Tenement
South
Viper.
Africa. What's that?
Sorry, I said Tenement Viper.
Yes, Tenement of Hype. In this case, it takes place in South Africa. Ryan Kruger is a South African director. If you recognize that name, it's probably because of his previous kind of, I think, something becoming a cult classic, Fried Berry, which also took place in South Africa, about kind of an alien experiencing his kind of introduction to Earth through the lens of like the underbelly of society, and not surprisingly, this is where the Street Trash remakes takes place. But in this case, instead of Viper being a expired alcohol, it is a noxious gas that is being produced by the mayor, basically to wipe out the homeless population. So they're kind of taking on a little bit of a different. I think whereas Street Trash is primarily just scene after scene meant for shock value, I do think Kruger is trying to take that into a little bit of like commentary about, the people who we try and not look at on the street, people who, as society, we kind of just like don't really think about what their day to day is like. And I think that there's an element where they take a very over the top comic look at this. I thought it was fun. I enjoyed it pretty thoroughly. I am waiting with bated breath to hear what Scott thought of the 2024 Street Trash remake.
Oh boy, oh boy. Let me preface this by saying I enjoyed Fried Berry quite a bit, actually. I think Ryan Kruger is a talented filmmaker.
Can
I
you
think
also,
this,
I'd be interested to hear the context of your feelings about the original Street Trash.
you know what? Honestly, kind of a neither here nor there kind of thing. I remember seeing it, thinking cool effects. The story didn't really compel me, and kind of life goes on. So it was kind of one of those ones that was known more for its effects than anything else. So it really, it held no truck for me going into this remake. Yeah, the social commentary didn't work for me. Thought it was really ham-handed and ham-fisted. The effects, for the most part, are pretty not good.
Hard
Yeah.
disagree.
Oh
Hard
no,
disagree.
no, no.
I mean,
And
yes,
and
do they love their bladder effects a little
no,
too
the
much?
bladder was the good stuff. I'm talking near the beginning. There's some makeup effects that are just awful, that are just not a good way to start off your movie. And I just
Did you not appreciate the fake boner getting cut off in the gate? Because I thought that was hilarious.
I appreciate the gesture, but the effect itself just
I
looked terrible.
I appreciate the gesture.
It's true.
Like I like that you made the effort, but
Yeah.
the boner just wasn't realistic enough for my taste.
It wasn't, but okay, let's talk about the little blue friend of
Oh,
the one
Sparkle.
homeless guy. Yeah, what was his name?
Sparkle.
Spotzel or
I
something?
think it's Sparkle.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
He was not. Why are you laughing? He was so unfunny. He was
I thought it was
terrible.
fun. I don't know.
Terrible and
It was
tasteless.
yeah, it was ridiculous and tasteless, but for some reason it worked for me. And usually
Um,
I get where you're coming from, Scott, because I'm usually the first person who's like, when someone is just doing something for like shock value and being like, here,
Normal Brian would hate this movie. I'm telling you.
look at look at all the crazy stuff that I'm saying. Like, I don't know why. Maybe it was like the crappy puppet design, but something about it was charming to me.
Yeah,
Uh,
I would agree with that. There was something, this whole movie was like, it just, I don't know, maybe I watched it at the right time, but it just kind of like tickled me. I thought it was, it was just kind of zany, kind of reminded me of like something I would see on Adult Swim after midnight. Like it just had that really, I don't know, just kind of a goopy kind of silliness to it that I guess I bought into it a little bit. But so I'm a little more with Team Brian when it comes to this one,
I think it's interesting too
or
because it's
Spackle.
like it shows the ways in which I contain multitudes because I just got done kind
mm.
of complaining how like Death of Unicorn wasn't like biting enough. Like it didn't really it was too feel good. But part of why I like this is because they take this like whereas in the original Street Trash, the homeless community is just kind of depicted as being over the top, dirty, gross, usually crass, rather unpleasant in a lot of ways. I feel like the way it's depicted here is like this made family who are, maybe on drugs and maybe dirty and maybe resort to like dealing drugs. And what's the main character? He sells his body at like he does sex work at Sexaholics
Anonymous.
Anonymous, and then from the money he makes, he goes over to the Narcotics Anonymous meeting and sells drugs over there. Like it's like I don't know. It is. I think the way it's in poor taste is so kind of quaintly done that it was charming to me. Yeah, I think there was something about the way that they kind of build like the camaraderie among the protagonists. I thought was actually kind of sweet.
See, I'm all for poor taste if it's done well. For me, there's nothing worse than an unfunny comedy, and this to me was just so try hard to be funny, and just for me, joke after joke was just not working. So I can't really, and like I said, I can't really praise the effects work, even though there's a lot going on. I think overall the effects work does not work for me, especially the early stuff where you can wait before he pulls his own face off. You can clearly see he's wearing a mask that he's gonna pull off, and it
But
just
that's part of the charm, Scott.
Yeah, like I
oh
don't I don't think it's supposed to be seamless. Like I think this is a movie where it's like, no, we're gonna leave all the seams in.
yeah.
Like again, back to like, I say they do a lot of bladder work. Half the time it looked like they were just blowing up a balloon and then just like popping it and having usually
Yeah,
purple or blue goop come out of
and it looked better than the stuff at the beginning.
it.
There's kind of like a Nickelodeon slime too that comes out in lieu of blood. Like it's a very maybe that's
It's
why I liked it so much.
it's that you can't do that on television. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. All the homeless people said, I don't know. And we're
that's
just,
right.
yeah.
It's covered in goop. Yeah, so I
A
would,
nice tip of the cap to Canada for you there, bud.
yeah. Oh, thank you. Elbows up. Like I said, I like Kruger as a filmmaker because I liked Fried Berry, but the script just doesn't work for me here. So I think I'd probably give it like 2.5 exploding pus balls out of 5.
How about you, Derek?
I think I'm a very strong three, maybe 3.5 pus balls. Maybe like one that's partially about to blow up, but it didn't quite yet. Because I
Not
mean,
ready to pop.
obviously not. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I had fun with it. Like, and I kind of liked the some of the commentary in there as well. Like, I thought it made sense for at least as like a remake, or I guess they kind of referenced the original because they mentioned like the 1986 incident in New York. So maybe this is more of like a legacy sequel.
I didn't even notice that. I missed
Yeah,
that
it's a
completely.
very, very quick line. But and I was like Leonardo DiCaprio on the couch, like pointing at the TV. But but yeah, I think it actually kind of made sense to like do this one again. So that it worked for me more than it didn't, I guess is what I'm saying.
I also think it's funny the way in which, we will have this discussion that seems like we are so far apart. And then Scott gives it a 2.5, and I'm also coming in at a 3. Like
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not saying this is high art by any means, but I also think like a 3 rating is always can be funny because it can either mean like this was a lot better than I thought it was going to be, or it was a lot worse than I thought it was going. Like sometimes a 3 can be super disappointing, but in this case, a 3 is like, no, this was fun. This was solid. I actually like this more than Fried Berry. I thought there were a couple things in Fried Berry that left a bit of a bad taste in my mouth. But yeah, I thought this was, it wasn't. I don't think it was ever trying to be anything that it wasn't. Like, yeah, the effects were bad. The script was bad, but like I think that was all. Yeah, we're gonna show and leave all of our seams in this. And it came together as something that for me was charming, and not in like a movie like a Sharknado where it's like we're gonna try and be campy. Like I
Ew.
didn't see it
Yeah.
that way, but it was like, no, we're just gonna have fun with this. This is gonna be
Mhm.
silly and goopy and weird.
And the acting too, like it like in the family, the homeless family, I thought they had a really good chemistry. Like the
Mhm.
Sean Cameron Michael is kind of the guide to this world. Like he's just very like they just seemed very like all in. Like they were, I don't know, it was very, they made it like believable in a way. It was kind of interesting to see them as out there as some of them were. It kind of just worked in a weird way. Even Sparkle. No.
As Scott's eyes roll into the back of his head.
They've rotated many times.
Well, before his bladders start to burst, I think we will bring it to the end of this episode. As always, we want to thank our listeners. Make sure to visit us at corpseclub.com. Check out our latest episode. Don't forget to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. Everything. Wow. I can't do intros or outros today. Leave it in, Jonathan. Leave it in because I'm just gonna keep pressing on. Yeah, it's because Derek keeps showing this baby face at me. Don't forget to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. Every single rating and review helps us out. You can also find us on Google Play, SoundCloud, and all your favorite podcast providers. If you want to get in touch, you can reach us anytime at contact@corpseclub.com. You can find us on Blue Sky at Daily Dead, plus all the Blue Sky shenanigans that come after that. You can get us on Twitter. Yes, I said Twitter at Daily Dead News or at Corpse Club, and on Instagram and Facebook under Corpse Club. Thanks again for listening, and until next time, lick my asshole and stay scary.